Hello everyone and welcome back. In this video I want to talk to you about the Baker Act gone wrong. And I mean really, really wrong. Really disturbing article that I'm going to talk to you about, and I will put a link to it in the description for the video. Pensacola family man wanted to get mental help. He was beaten instead. March 14th was a typical day in the Crumpton household before Bradley Crumpton suddenly began suffering from a mental health episode, according to his sister. Crumpton grabbed a knife and began threatening his sister, his grandmother, and his nephew during a schizophrenic episode. The family called law enforcement with the expectation that Crumpton would get emergency mental health treatment. Instead, they later discovered that he had been hospitalized to surgically repair his hand after an alleged beating by an Escambia jail officer. When the family called law enforcement in the past, deputies would typically take him either to the Lakeview Center or a hospital, possibly stop him by the jail before taking him to one of the two locations to receive mental health treatment. Instead, deputies booked Crumpton, who suffers from paranoid schizophrenia and multiple personality disorder, into the Escambia County Jail. It was just a few hours after deputies booked Crumpton to jail when Officer Sharif Hale allegedly beat the man to the point that his finger was hanging off his hand, requiring a rod to surgically repair it. Hale is charged with one third-degree felony count of battery and one third-degree felony of tampering with evidence. Officer Larry Martin, who was with Hale during the alleged beating, is charged with one misdemeanor count of providing false information to law enforcement for creating a fictitious story surrounding Hale's reason for entering Crumpton's cell. Of course, the family wants justice. Who can blame them? According to the sheriff's office, deputies are able to Baker Act a person if they feel the need, if they need mental health support or is going through a mental health event. But they can also arrest and book a person to jail despite the mental health event, depending on the crime for which they are arrested. Yeah, that's fine, but you know, when law enforcement takes somebody to the county jail, they have a duty to keep them safe, not beat the living tar out of them. Very, very concerning. I'll let you read this for yourself, but look, you know, I'm a former prosecutor. I was a prosecutor for 5 years. I worked very closely, obviously, with law enforcement. I also did some defense work. I also have a retired cop that works for us. John is a former federal agent. I have a team of investigators that work with him. And honestly, I don't think we could do the work that we do without him. They're amazing. But unfortunately, like every profession, the legal profession included, there's a couple of bad apples. And these two deputies, not only should they have their law enforcement license stripped forever, they both need to go to jail. This is absolutely shameful. It's disgraceful and frankly sickening. But unfortunately, Florida's mental health system is broken, and I've waxed poetic about that. And I've also told you that when someone gets Baker Acted, for all intents and purposes, they fall into a big black hole. Nobody actually knows you're there. The difference is, obviously, if you go to the county jail, if you're not able to bond out, at least you get a first appearance, meaning you get to see a judge automatically within 24 hours. But don't think that this kind of stuff doesn't happen at Baker Act facilities, because it does. I've represented, you know, our firm was involved in a case where a woman was sexually assaulted. Another one where a man was beaten up, a bit like this poor guy. So this stuff happens, which is why I keep telling you that the moment your loved one gets Baker Acted, even if it's a good Baker Act, and it was legal, and I'll tell you, the bulk of the 900 cases that we have filed, I would say, you know, 890 of them were bad Baker Acts. But even if it's a good Baker Act, you should be the one making the decision about your loved one's medical and mental health care, not the state of Florida, because this is the kind of stuff that happens when the state gets involved in your life. And so I am going to say this again. If your loved one gets Baker Acted, you need to fight like hell to get them out so that you can get them the help they need. And if they shouldn't be there, then let's get them out. Period. End of story. You know, I'm passionate about this stuff. It's really become a bit of a mission of mine. And so, look, if you're a loved one, you know, if you've got a loved one who's Baker Acted, please reach out to us. If you have already been released, and I hate to say this, there's pretty much nothing I can do for you. I get 2 or 3 calls a day from people who want to sue, and I have to give them the bad news. You're not getting any money out of this. Okay, and I'm not I'm not telling you that because I don't want to help you. I'm telling you that because the state grants these private facilities sovereign immunity. So if they illegally Baker Acted you, you're not going to be able to sue them. If something terrible happened to you, God forbid you got beaten up like this guy, that's a story. Then there's possibly a lawsuit because they have a duty, like the sheriff, to keep you safe. But absent you being physically abused, there's nothing I can do. So, I've had families that call me and say, oh, we're just going to wait. Once they get out, we'll sue. No, there's no pot of gold at the end of this rainbow. There just isn't. The statute makes it really clear about that. And I've spoken to some colleagues of mine about that. And, other than the fact there may be a civil rights violation, which is years of litigation, there's really very little I can do for you after the fact, which is why before you get released, let's get you out as soon as we possibly can so bad things don't happen to you. So anyway, that's my story on the Baker Act today. Very disappointing. If there's an issue going on in your family and I haven't made a video, let me know. I will make you a video, because if it's affecting your family, it's certainly affecting, other families. And these videos are about giving you the information that you need so you can decide, do you even want to pick up the phone and have a conversation with us? I appreciate you tuning in. If you like this content, please give me a thumbs up. They tell me it helps the algorithm. And if you want more of this content that I make for you every day, please subscribe to the channel. And with that said, thank you for tuning in. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.